Okay, well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Pape,
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta,
Here.
Councilmember Hands,
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Here.
Councilmember Leahy,
Here.
Councilmember Neal, Councilmember Ryder,
Here.
Councilmember Silvers,
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken as each item is to be considered. Please note individuals making public comments be limited to 5 minutes. We did have a sign-up sheet here, but no one's on it. That doesn't preclude you, if you would like to come speak about a public item that isn't on the agenda this evening, please come to the podium. Can anybody rush up at once? Okay. All right. Looks like we have no one coming forward at this time, so we will close out the public items then on that. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. All items under this heading are considered to be routine by the City Council, may be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Considering we only have one item on it, does anybody have any questions or concerns about that before we vote on that? I see nobody looks like has anything. I would entertain a motion for that then.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
I move that
Ms.
the
Hanson.
council approve consent agenda item number 1.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Silvers? Sorry. I second that. Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Shavetta,
Aye.
Councilmember Hands,
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder,
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, one of my favorite things is proclamations, and so I would like to read this proclamation that whereas the Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of the communities throughout this country, including Merriam, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people, and whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for fitness classes, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles, including educational activities and citywide special events, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Merriam recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the Mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month, proclaimed on this 10th day of July 2023. Okay, thank you, Parks and Rec. Yo, we have our Parks and Rec people are out there. Could you stand and just be recognized? Yes. Okay, there you go. All right. Okay. You may be seated. Thank you for all you do. Oh, we're gonna get a picture? Oh, hey, we're getting a picture. Let's go. I'll bring the proclamation down. All over there.
And you're into exercise, right?
Up, down, up, down, up, down.
How about you get in the middle?
Get in the middle.
Yeah, there you go. There we go.
Okay, thank you. For you, I guess. You want to keep it or should you keep it? You can have it. We got it. down there just a second anyway, but probably should have just stayed down there. Of course, I believe the next item up is the Employee Service Awards, so second quarter. I kind of thought you were going to tell me that once I got back up here. I'm walking back. There we go.
Well, the mayor walks down here. I just want to kind of explain to everybody in the crowd what we do. We do these quarterly, so every quarter we acknowledge our employees that are here for some 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, sometimes 30, 35-year anniversary. So we used to do all of these at once, but we decided to space them out a little bit. Gives everybody a little bit more time to, or a little bit more acknowledgement and recognition when we don't have so many people coming forward all at once. But this is really, really exciting opportunity for the council and for the public to get to see a lot of our tenured employees. And tonight, as you can see on the board there, we've got a lot of tenure in the house this evening. So it is a great evening for these. First recognition we have with 5 years of dedicated service to our police department is Nick Moeller.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get a group. Oh, I already broke it.
Next, with 5 years of dedicated service in our administration department, specifically in our finance department, is Sherry Long.
Please stand next.
Next, 10 years of dedicated service park and rec is Michael Lincoln.
And please stand next to the rest of the group.
15 years, our community development director, Brian Dyer.
Get a picture. Well, that was his best side. Everybody knows what
Next on our list is with 20 years of dedicated service to our park and rec department and our residents, Dave Smothers. 20 years.
I know, right? Thanks, Mayor.
And last but not least, with 25 years of dedicated service to our administration department and our finance department, specifically Trish Wirtz.
Oh, sorry, we don't want those guys in. Okay. And we're gonna get a group photo.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody come up. Have a group photo. Oh,
Unless you want to keep it.
I don't get it.
Again, this is always a great opportunity to acknowledge all of our tenured employees and their coworkers that come out to support them and their families that come. So we thank them also as they depart to celebrate, I'm sure.
Okay. That's always fun. All right. The couple other things, I always like to at least acknowledge some of the other things that's gone on since the last 2 weeks. And I probably have missed a few things, but some stuff that the council and myself have been doing, and some of our city staff, is I, Director Slocum, Assistant Director Smothers, retired Councilmember DeBold, and several residents assisted in the marking of the flag field in preparations for the Flags for Freedom event down at the Farmers Market. Numerous volunteers and council members assisted in placing the flags on that said field on July 1. And then I straightened the flags, and I think some of the other people, maybe Councilman Hands did, throughout the week. Those things get knocking over, and so we straightened the flag field. And then I attended a Vernon Place Parade and Block Party, which was hosted by the retired Councilmember Todd Boyer. Put that on for us. And I and Councilmember Hand attended the cruise night at the Farmers Market, which was another one of our great events. A lot of really cool cars at that event. We had a food truck and a band. The band was great. They played some songs that I even knew the lyrics to. Didn't have to make them up. And yeah, it's kind of old. But we had there was a lot of positive comments. I want to pass that on to Director Slocum about the flags being up. So during the car show. So I know we didn't take them down on Saturday because of the rain, so it's actually being taken down right now as we speak. There were volunteers who were out there. I really wanted to help them, but they had this to do tonight. So, but anyway, I don't know if we can maybe do if we're going to do the cruise night again in July. Maybe we could do it on a Friday night and leave the flags up. They did. No, she's shaking her head. No. Well, just a thought. They really did enjoy the flags being there at the same time as the cars, though, too, as well. Okay, well, that's pretty much, other things, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Hands.
I also attended a block party for Schweitzer Villas, which was quite well attended. I wasn't there a long time, but they appreciated having the party.
They do, and they always appreciate hearing from our council people at those parties as to what's going on in the city. I know I always get asked a lot of questions, so thank you for attending that. Okay, I don't think I have anything else from the mayor's report anyway, so, but as I look for my minutes here. Next item up is council items, presentation of the recommended 2024 budget. Looks like it's our next item. We have Director Oliver coming to the podium. Going to tell us all about our 2024 budget.
Okay. Okay, as you may recall, last time we met, we talked about revenues. So tonight we're going to kind of talk about requested expenditures and look at that. So we're going to start looking at the funds that we budget and what those are. We have the two general type funds, the general fund and the risk management. Under the special revenue, we have a special highway fund, special park and rec, trains and guest tax, special alcohol. I-35 District TIF Fund, we'll talk about that a little bit in a second, our debt service, and then our capital project accounts. In the past, we have not separately budgeted for the I-35 District TIF Fund. We've kind of rolled it into the Capital Improvement Fund, but as we were going through the budget process, we felt that it would really probably improve transparency on what was going through that fund to have it separate. So we're going to actually budget separately for it this year. And whenever we get to the other funds, we'll kind of show you what that looks like. Okay. As far as our general fund and overall budget goes, there is a 3% salary increase included in there, and then also a 2% reserve for possible inflation adjustments. And so depending on how inflation goes, the city administrator would have the discretion to potentially, if we see police officer salaries have really gone up or whatever, to make some kind of an adjustment or retention bonus for that type if that happens. There is money in there to transition one part-time position to full-time. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. We're going to convert 2 unpaid intern positions to paid. Right now, the police department and Parks and Rec both have unpaid.
Do we have any other unpaid intern positions in the city?
Not that I am aware of. I don't believe that. No.
I was just glad to say, I want to make sure we weren't having any other unpaid labor.
Right, yeah, no, we do not. Both of these positions would be $15 an hour positions, probably. It's just the number of hours over the year kind of varies. And then we estimated a 12% health insurance increase. We hope it's not that much, but we won't really know until November, so. All current services that we currently provide are funded. In addition, we provided funding for a consultant to investigate a single hauler trash service. As you may recall, that was a city council goal. We're doing, every 3 years, we do an ET survey of all the citizens and businesses, and this next year will be that 3rd year, so we're gonna do a survey. You'll see in the equipment replacement fund that we have funding for HVAC and sustainability improvements to the facilities. It was already time to replace the HVAC in City Hall, but in addition to that, there's some other sustainability issues, so we'll talk about that. There's Public Works, police and fire equipment, and then we funded all current community grants, and as you'll see, there's been some expansion on that. General fund expenditures, in the proposed budget for operating type costs are $20 million. That's a 5.7% increase over last year. And then transfers out, that's the money that goes over to the equipment reserve fund to pay for equipment. And the money that goes over to the capital improvement fund to pay for our capital projects are $5.9 million. What makes up the general fund expenditures? The largest expenditure we pay out of there is that transfer over for capital improvement and equipment at 23%. Then you have your police, your fire, your public works, and then parks, and then your other groups. So probably not a lot of surprise there. Okay, I talked about there was one position that was a part-time position right now that we're wanting to convert to a full-time. That is for a recreation assistant programs over in the Parks and Rec Fund. This person would really be doing a lot of different tasks, but I think one of their primary is to help out with citywide special events. We've added events over the years, and then just generally covering other duties. If you would like to know more about it, Director Slocum is here and could certainly provide you additional input on it. Okay. Citywide salary and benefits, so that would include those personnel changes as well as the 12% increase in health insurance, raises, et cetera, have an overall increase of 5.2% in the budget. Community grants. None of the grants were removed. However, we did increase funding to a few of them, the franchise fee rebate and the property tax rebate. In both of those cases this year, they're close to maxing out. I mean, they're not, but they're both within a few $1,000s. I know the franchise fee rebate, the actual is already over $6,000. So just to make, or not, is already over $5,000. So just to make sure we have enough, we increased those. You'll see that the residential tree program, we increased by doubling it. That's been a very popular program. And in addition, you may recall that was also a council goal to increase the urban forest, or I'm not sure exactly how it was worded, but something like that. And so we felt that would help accomplish that. So just to kind of show you, we have the exterior home improvement grant, franchise fee, the historic downtown Merriam, neighborhood block party, residential sustainability, driveway repair, the property tax, compost bin, small projects, energy saving kits, stormwater grant, residential trees, and then some of the grants that go to other agencies to help support our residents, United Community Services, Shawnee Mission Cares, rental assistance, utility assistance, and the major minor home repair, for a total of $616,000. So I think, yes, sir.
Only the two changed, the rest are the same.
The rest are the same. Well, all of the franchise fee increase, those, I guess, 5 increased. The rest stayed the same. And really, the only significant change was to the residential trees.
If I could just add to that, I mean, this is, I think the council would agree, I don't want to speak for the council, but this is money well spent. I mean, this is something that sets Merriam apart from a lot of our other communities. This is actually something that other cities are starting to look at and feel compelled to do because we are doing it. So we are actually a leader when it comes to making sure that we're in our neighborhoods and we're helping our residents out in the different ways that that we can, that are most appropriate with the funding that we have. So I think this is something that we really should hang our hat on and celebrate as something that makes us really, really unique. So, well, that is a big dollar figure. It is, in terms of the private investment that comes from most of this money, this is money that is well spent. And I think your staff is happy to administer these programs, and there's a lot of pride that goes into seeing the final completed grant submittals on most of these. So.
I thought it was interesting, just to add on to that, we had an administrative staff meeting, and Caitlin, our new assistant city manager, was there. And one thing that she commented on was how that Shawnee looks for Merriam to see the right way to do things and the right extra programs to offer to their citizens. And I think that's a great testament to the city. Okay. So are there any questions so far, or rolling along good? Okay.
Good.
Our bond and interest fund, I think the most interesting points to look at on this is you can see the property tax collections have gone down. Again, that's reflective of the mill levy, and I almost said decrease that is proposed in the budget. And you'll also notice, if you look kind of towards the bottom, the debt service, we're seeing a decrease in that, and that's because we're paying off those one set of bonds. So nice to see that.
Do you recall what those bonds were for?
They were refunding bonds of like 4 different years. They were like from 2002, 2003, 4, and 5, and I think they were just...
So they were Price Street projects. It was probably before we did pay-as-you-go.
They
You're
were,
right.
weren't they subordinate bonds for Merriam Town Center?
I don't believe so. I believe they were like just some storm drainage
Some
and
refinance.
streets. Yeah, and they definitely were all refunding bonds. So it was refunding
Okay.
for a lower interest rate.
Okay, thanks.
Transient guest tax fund, you can see in 2024, there's a nice increase in the amount of tax because, as you may remember, we increased the transient guest tax rate last year. And equipment reserve fund, one thing to note, or 2 things really to note, you'll see the transfers in. Ever since I've been here, it's been around $700,000, and that's really pumped up to $2 million this year. And the reason for that is if you look at the capital expenditures, $2.5 million. And so we've seen this is going to be a big spending year if we approve this budget. And so let's go through and look at what we've got in there. We've got some public works equipment, police equipment, 2 pieces of equipment for public works are new, a sidewalk snow removal machine, anti-icing tank for plow trucks. And then we've got a virtual reality training system for the police that's new. The others are replacements. We've got some fire equipment, typical IT replacements. Two large item new things are the emergency generator at Public Works and at Community Center. You may not be aware of this. I wasn't until this budget cycle, but neither of those buildings right now have an emergency generator. And so if power goes out, they're just down. And especially like with the community center, if we ever wanted to use it as some kind of shelter, there's at least a possibility we wouldn't unless we replace, or not replace, put in a generator in there. We talked about the HVAC for City Hall and Merriam Visitors Bureau. Both of those are due and they're ready to go. But as we're doing those, it really makes sense to also look at these kind of sustainability items and just do them all in one big package, and that is providing radiant heat and makeup air at Public Works. I believe this, and Randy can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe what this is, you know, they have those big garage doors that go up and down. This would provide kind of heat by those doors so that the air wouldn't escape, and so we're not constantly having to heat the whole building. The BAS upgrades, I know this is what controls the temperatures, but what does BSA stand for?
Building automation system.
Right, and so that automates, you know, so on the weekends, maybe in the summer, it's a little hotter at City Hall because nobody's here. Those kind of upgrades. And then bipolar ionization.
It
Which-
scrubs the air for viruses.
Yes, thank you. So all of those, we feel, especially the first three, would probably be just smart, wise, good environmental decisions that would provide savings in the long run to the city. And it only makes sense to do all of that kind of in one big project versus trying to piece it out and do it. And so that's a major amount of between that and the generators, that is the big chunk of what's going to happen next year, but we felt all of that is important to do.
Real quick question, are we looking at the bipolar ionization for the City Hall HVAC upgrades as well?
Yes.
When they, as part of that package
Yes,
system? Okay.
yes, that is correct.
I
I
want,
believe all of this would probably be bid out together. So it would be one.
I just want to say it's so interesting to see fans for the marketplace up there because I've been here a long time and I've been asked about that a lot of times.
Well, hey,
You just stick around long enough.
yes. That was Caleb Hunt and Director Slocum both proposed that, so that got put in
Well,
there.
it helped that we did the upgrade to the electrical at the marketplace. That was one of the impediments.
Yes.
Question. Why didn't we do an emergency generator when we built the community center? And I know you probably weren't a part of that either, but Chris?
It was just a budgetary decision.
I was just curious. It's only 4 years old, so.
Yeah, it was a budgetary decision.
Okay.
And since we are discussing those now, I was going to wait, but would that be 100% coverage, 50% coverage, just operational level? What will we be able to do with those generators?
I can't remember what he proposed to the electrical contractor on that. Anna might know.
Yeah, I would imagine the computer systems, the lights, and the,
For me, it's mainly operational so that the pool pumps stay pumping and we keep the pools moving, as well as computers and lighting to get people out, but we're not looking to run the entire facility. So we're gonna try and get those emergency services operational. So we could be a shelter, but we're not looking to necessarily remain operational to the public. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, if no other questions. Capital Improvement Fund, this really is a matter of just the CIP discussion that we had earlier in the year and the money that it takes to fund that. And so all of the capital expenditures that you see there of 8.5 million were in the CIP. Nothing has changed since it was presented to you. Okay, the I-35 District TIF Fund, this is really what we're looking to start budgeting and filling that. This will provide maybe a little additional clarity of exactly what's coming in and out of there. The capital, you can see we've got our beginning balance, the receipts that are coming in, and then economic development, that's the agreements that we're paying with developers. You can see that amount increases quite a bit next year, and that's because next year we pay a little more, well, not a little more, we really make 2 payments to Drake next year. The rest of the years, that'll go back down, but next year's a big year for payout to them. So, any questions about that since that's a new fund? Yes, sir.
Help me understand the transfer in.
Okay. The transfer in is because if you notice, we have the capital expenditures this year of 4.4 million. That is if we do the undergrounding, then we'll have that 4.4 million. At the end of 2024, if we weren't bringing, we're really kind of doing a temporary loan from the Capital Improvement Fund, because after 2024, it'll have enough money, but there's kind of like a temporary, because we're making that large payment to Drake. And so it's a temporary cash flow thing from the Capital Improvement Fund.
We're transferring in from the capital improvements plan.
Right.
And then we
to cover
expect
to cover that, but then we want those to ultimately be paid for.
Then we'll eventually transfer it back.
Right. If you look, in 2024, we're transferring back 500,000, and then it will all get put back in there. I believe it goes 500,000, and then the 25 it's $1 million, 26 it's $1 million, and then 500,000. So. And of course, that's all something that will be discussed with you if and when the, certainly nothing is decided on that, if and when that proposal comes to you.
Thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome, sir. You're very welcome. I think, anything we can do to improve transparency is always a good thing, so. Okay, so if we look at all of the whole budget, as it's proposed, we see total expenditures of just under $43 million. So, any questions so far? Okay. Now we have kind of the exciting property tax revenues. And tonight, and it's the next item on the agenda, we need to decide I apologize. We need to decide if we intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate. And because we have to notify the county one way or the other, doesn't mean you have to exceed it, just if you have any intention to. As we talked about last week, there was a goal that if we could still maintain reserves and fund city services, we would reduce the city mill levy. The proposed budget includes a reduction of a quarter of a mill, and that's from the reduction to the bond mill levy. This just shows us again what our assessed property values are in the breakout. Revenue neutral rate, I know you've seen this several times, but just as a reminder, it's the tax rate that would give us the current, in the current tax year that would generate the same property tax revenue as levied in the previous year. No allowance for CPI growth, no allowance for new construction. Last year, we had a rate of 27.665. When that was applied to the assessed valuation, we had a levy of 6.8 million. This year, with the increase in valuation, if we were going to generate that same 6.851 in property tax, we would have to lower the rate to 25.547. If our mill levy is higher at all than that, then we have to notify that we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate. This budget that we've talked about the last couple of meetings assumes that we're going to reduce the mill rate by 1/4 of a mil, down to 27.415. So even though we're lowering the mill rate because we're going to exceed that mill levy, that revenue neutral rate, we still need to notify the county that we're going to exceed it. Again, Mr. Caldwell's graphic of the revenue neutral rate would generate 6.851. If we took the amount from new construction, it would generate $7,000. If we looked at the CPI growth, that would generate another $500,000. So that would get us to $7,357,000. What we're proposing is slightly less than that, a mill levy rate of 27.415.
Which I believe the question was asked at the last meeting. When was the last time we rolled that back? I think research showed that it was 1997. So 25 years ago was the last time that the mill rate was actually rolled back. So that's it's been a while, generation.
Right. And if you're curious what other Johnson County cities are doing, at least their staff feels, the staff is all recommending an intent to exceed, except for Roland Park. However, while Roland Park is going to roll with the revenue neutral rate, they are proposing increasing, is it the stormwater fees, which we don't have stormwater fees, but they're going to really kind of, steal from Peter to give to Paul, or whatever that expression is. Rob Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. So that's what everyone else is doing. And so that's really, are there any other questions or discussion? Yes.
Just out of curiosity, if we decided to not exceed the revenue neutral rate, what kind of money are we talking about?
That would be, if we go back here to this, okay, the difference in revenue from the revenue neutral rate and what we're proposing is $500,000. So we would have to go back and identify $500,000.
So that's $500,000 of public services
Right.
that we would have to somehow cut.
Right, right.
Thank you.
But again, I would just point out that that's just in year one. That money's gone every year. So in a 5-year plan, that's $2.5 million. Probably more than that based upon assessed valuation growth. So we just want to make sure that we acknowledge that.
Okay. Okay. Here is our budget calendar. We've kind of talked about the draft budget. As soon as I close this out, there's going to be a motion to approve exceeding the revenue neutral rate, so we'll decide that shortly. If intent is to exceed the revenue neutral rate and go with the budget that we have presented, then we will be back to talk to you on August 21st with a public hearing. and then to exceed the revenue neutral rate and to adopt the budget, and then August 30, we'll turn that into the county. If you decide in a few minutes not to exceed it, then all of that really kind of gets pushed back up a few weeks. So,
And just to clarify, the council could vote to exceed the revenue neutral rate this evening and then still choose not to,
yes, that is true.
and could choose to
Or-
lower the mill more than a quarter mil, but
Right.
we need to statutorily acknowledge that we are considering exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
That is correct. That's really all you're doing tonight. No,
I'm sorry, Donna. So August 21st, I don't think we have a council meeting that day. I think it's the 14th and the 28th.
okay, then it would be I apologize, it would be the 28th.
Okay.
I believe the 21st is the first day that we can have a meeting to exceed it, but, okay.
Can we back up a few slides to where we get to the big increase in the equipment reserve?
Yes. This has like several slides. I don't know if there's a particular
No, just
slide you want to look
The-
at.
the-
or-
The summary one, the very.
The
I
very
think
first one? This one?
more.
Okay.
Yeah, where we go up, whatever the math is there, significant,
It is a significant,
which is basically where if we were to look for a $500,000 cut, most of it would have to come here. Well, or get
No.
into salaries and
Or out of the grants.
grants.
I mean, there are a lot of places that could come from.
It wouldn't necessarily have to come out of one thing.
Right.
It would
No,
have to,
it wouldn't,
yeah.
but this is our biggest increase.
And I would argue that it's also the one that has the most tangible,
Well, and I, when I
It
look at
causes-
the
obvious why we
the
Well, and
need
the-
it.
detail of it,
yeah.
I'm not sure which one I would ever want to take out.
Because it causes the most like maintenance issues and cost over time too, arguably. Or
Right.
It's just a significant investment in our city's infrastructure, which is a good thing.
and snow removal.
Well, and what you don't see on there is that it does actually go back down. We're gonna have two pretty high years, 24 and 25 will look similar. I think it's a little bit less than 25 projected currently, but it will go back down. And that's the point of the equipment reserve, is so that we can eliminate spikes from the general fund. So we fund this account we try to anticipate, we've got a fire truck coming. We've got something like this where we really have an expensive item. But yeah, 24 and 25 are both, they're going to be heavy hitters in the 10-year reserve, at least recommended at staff level.
okay.
So are you, anything else that you want to talk to us about the revenue, or would you like for us to see if we want to?
No,
make a motion?
I think this concludes my presentation, so I think it just moves to,
Okay. All right, thank you, Director Oliver. We're hearing what she's presented here this evening. I would entertain a motion if we're interested in going forward with an intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Someone would like to make that motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hands, okay.
I will make that motion.
Okay.
I move that the council approve the intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 2024 budget.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Mr. LaHaye?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like next item up would be the staff informational items, July CIP update. Got Superintendent Fine coming to the podium.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got your July CIP update. First up, we have 55th Street, street improvement. Candace Heavy's finished the punch item list. They're hopefully don't have to come back in September, but if there is some sod that needs to be replaced, they will be on the hook for that, and then they'll be issued the final payment after that, which will start the 2-year bond. Yes, ma'am.
Does this include areas that are not directly along 55th Street where they might have stored equipment and things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I know one street in particular here. Yes. Yep. Next up, we have Merriam Drive. We met with BHC, some of the engineers last Thursday, I believe, and had some good discussion on just finalizing some just minute details to the plans. That way we can hopefully go to bid here next few months. So that'll be exciting to get that project kicked off. And then last, we have the 50th Terrace England to Kessler Drainage Project. Similar stuff, the BHC is still working on the plans, and then the next expected update is mid-July, where we'll see some of the flow calculations and make sure everything is what we're planning on doing. So, any questions?
Okay, Mr. Silvers, go ahead.
After last week's storm, there were some downed limbs, and I saw my neighbor had one, and then midday it was gone. Did Public Works come and get it?
If they did, it was maybe because it was in the street. Other than that, we don't typically go into people's yards and do that, so.
Okay, well, I was gonna thank Public Works for doing that. I saw some Public Works trucks driving around with limbs in it, so I didn't know if you all picked it up.
They've been doing some just trimming around stop signs and street lights, just to clear that up.
Okay, thank you. And I did notice that some limbs that were obscuring a speed limit sign in Ward 1 they were trimmed, so thank you for doing that.
I was going to say, thanks for the letter. I got my letter in the mail for the new sidewalks up on Farley Street. My daughter will be very happy with her scooter. She face planted last week when she hit.
Very good.
Connection between two panels.
I guess quickly, Sherwood Forest is slated to start this Wednesday for the overlay portion. So Water One's in there right now, and yeah, hopefully they can coordinate all that so they're not in each other's way.
Any other questions for Superintendent Fine?
Just because I've been gone, do we have an update on the Water One project on Shawnee Mission Parkway in Antioch?
So I can't remember if we pushed that out. I think Jenna did a update on, they moved the work zone down to Craig, so at least from Antioch to Craig all lanes are open, which I did drive it, and it's kind of like, wow, there's a street there. So, but as far as
We can tell them to call Overland Park now.
yeah, I mean it's moved on down.
Gotcha.
I think they're going all the way to Metcalf.
Are they going to repave after? Do you know?
So
It's bad.
I'm not sure if that was in conjunction with the KDOT
KDOT's
project.
Yeah, so the nature of this project is that KDOT showed up at the last minute last year and said that they were going to repave the street starting like a week later. And Water One said, hey, we have a main that's underneath there that we need a little bit of time, but we'd like to replace it before you put it in there. And we, as the city, mediated a solution, which was to get them both to work together and only tear the street up once, because we ultimately, well, we don't own the street or the water pipes, we will take the blame and the calls. So we felt like in the spirit of good government, we should all be working together. And even if it is a little bit more of an inconvenience, and even if there was a little bit of an increase in cost, we were able to convince Water One to pay the cost difference of pushing the bid off a year so that we could get all of this, which it doesn't look that coordinated, but it actually is coordinated when you're talking about those two entities working together. Yes, there is supposed to be a street project following up the pipe project. And if it was done correctly, it will be done immediately after the pipe
Yeah.
project.
I thought that was the case, and I vaguely remember all this now that you're saying that. So thank you. I honestly haven't heard from a lot of Ward 4 residents right there, but a lot of people that don't live in Merriam travel through there too. So hopefully it's before school starts. They'll get that done.
I'll reach out to Water One and see if they know when that plan might be. I'm sure they have a contact at KDOT that could also, I'll follow up.
Any other questions? Okay, I see none. Thank you, sir. Okay, looks like next item up might be anything from staff. Mr. Engel?
Just real quick, just got back this afternoon from vacation. Appreciate everybody keeping it quiet while I was gone. I was able to maximize my vacation time with my family. So thank you to staff and residents and Gremlins and everyone else for keeping things quiet, which was fantastic. I did not get the opportunity to thank, at the conclusion of Donna's presentation, Director Oliver's presentation, thank department heads and Donna and her staff for putting together that budget. Department heads do a great job every year of trying to meet council goals and keeping what we call maintenance budgets in place, which is to maintain the things that we do and we do well, even though with inflationary costs, it costs more every year to do what we do, and really limit the new things, the wants, but there are some things that we put in there that what we require them to justify, that these are needs and they actually will enhance service levels. So I appreciate the hard work of department heads and Donna and her staff for putting that budget together, because it is not easy, and council for their good direction that we get. So I apologize for missing that. Other than that, I did want to thank everybody, all the volunteers for Flags for Freedom. I heard good feedback on that. I did receive several emails on that, so thank you to council, staff, volunteers, for everybody that play an active role in that. That is a great event that occurs in our community. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Engel? Okay, I see no questions. We do have an executive session this evening, and I would entertain a motion from someone.
How long would you like that to be?
Gosh, you guys can get pretty talkative. I don't know, 20 minutes. I don't know if 15 would be enough, but 20 should be plenty.
Okay. Mr. Mayor,
Go
I
ahead.
move that the governing body recess into executive session to discuss the city administrator's annual review pursuant to KSA 754319B1, which allows the governing body to recess into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. President will be the governing body, the city attorney, and the meeting will reconvene in the city council chambers at 8:15.
Okay, we have a motion. I hear a second. Go ahead, Ms.
Mr. Mayor, second?
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, and you're welcome to stick around if you want, but that pretty much is most of our meeting this evening. Okay, we will reconvene at the council chambers at 8:15, and I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second? Ms. Yodridge?
Mr. Mayor, second that?
We have a motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.